Good morning. We're on the record in case D10-430049, Marnie Victoria versus Victor Victoria. Counsel, your appearance for the record, please.
Good morning, Your Honor. Joseph Caraccioni and Sabrina Dolson on behalf of Marnie Victoria, who is present. There, you can see them both via Bluetooth.
Okay. Counsel, your appearance, please. Ms. Robinson.
Good morning, Your Honor. Amber Robinson, bar number 10731 on behalf of Victor Victoria, who's present.
Okay, this is on today for Dad's motion, well, it's Mom's motion for custody modification. Wait a minute, hold on. Yeah, Mom's motion for, no. Hold on, counsel. Defendant's motion for custody modification, child support, and opposition and counter motion. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. I did read everything, counsel. It looks like I did see a lot of the issues are with Monet, and I saw the whole issue with school and that. My concern, counsel, is it sounds like this is regarding a lot of private matters. I'm inclined to move us into a breakout room so this is not public. Who else needs to be moved along with us? I'm fine with the family members, but I just don't want it to be a... I don't want any children to be able to pull this up. It's not okay for us to discuss people's mental health issues or non-mental health issues, whatever the case may be. So we're going to pull you into breakout room, counsel.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Okay. Is everybody pulled over? Okay, I believe everybody's pulled over. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. All right. So I've reviewed the motion, counsel, and the opposition and the reply. Look, I do see that Monet went to Faith Lutheran, then Sig Rogich, and then there was a fight, and then the police came. The concern that I have and the confusion I have is the motion does not match the opposition as to what happened during that fight and that situation. It appears from the opposition that Dad was present. Miss Robinson, is that correct? Dad was present in that altercation when they called the police and all that?
No, he was not present for the altercation. Marnie called him and asked him to assist and let him know what was going on. So he did go over to her house and he assisted the situation.
Okay, but then he left before the police came, or what happened? Or he was there when the police were there, or what's the situation?
Yes, he stayed while the police were there, and that is when they were telling her you can either go to juvie or you can go to Seven Hills.
And then Dad drove her to Seven Hills, is that right?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, because the first reading of the motion did not give me that inclination. It kind of made it look like this happened at Mom's house and this occurred and she had her choice of those places. And then when I read the opposition, it said, wait, he was involved. And so I was a little confused of what was happening on there. So it sounds like we have a really troubled teenager or preteen. Is that right?
Yes, Your Honor. She's on a lot of different medications.
Okay.
She's not getting along with Mom at all.
Okay.
And speaking to Mr. Victoria, I think he's going to remove his request for a change in custody. He doesn't know that uprooting her is the best thing for her, but where, you know, a year and a half ago, where the parties came to an agreement that he would have modified legal custody, that this just isn't going to work if Mom is going to just make such drastic decisions.
Okay.
And he felt like his hands were tied that day with the police. It's either my daughter gets in criminal trouble or I follow Mom's decision to go to a mental health hospital, which he doesn't believe that their child.
Okay, so counsel, is your client then your client's only asking for a change of legal custody, not physical custody, or what? I'm confused at what he's asking for.
Yes, so now it would just be legal custody.
Okay, all right. Mr. Caraccioni, so it is your client's motion, counsel. I believe I have a good handle of what all occurred. It sounds like the child's struggling, and everybody agrees that the child's struggling because they came together to try to fix that situation, and the police involved, and it didn't go well. So, Mr. Caraccioni, it looks like the only concern that he has is that they need to make these decisions together regarding legal custody decisions of her health care. I just don't know, now that that's a change in the position, I don't know what your client's position is regarding that, counsel.
Our client's position is that this is something that she has dealt with over the years. She's the one who has exclusively taken the child to therapists. He does not participate in the process. He has not been involved in this child's life. A lot of these things, as the court even noted previously, may have been avoided if Dad had been involved in the child's life. Dad is not involved in the child's life.
Counsel, I gotta agree with you. I wrote those all in my notes. I wrote the same thing, Mr. Caraccioni. Where is Dad? Why is he not really being involved? Does he just want to say, but he doesn't want to do the heavy lifting? Those are what my notes were. I wrote all over your guys' motions and oppositions about. So I'm going to want to hear about that, Ms. Robinson, when I let you have a chance to speak again. So that was my concern as well. So, but it looks like it's legal custody now, counsel. So your client is...
No. I understand that, but the issue is, look, these parties agreed on this just a year ago. The ink was just drying on this. And for him to return a year later on this, when these issues, these behavioral issues have existed now for years and they've already been subject to court hearings, really isn't any kind of change in circumstances. What he's trying to do is, and initially was trying to change custody, but she had filed a request with the DA to review child support, and it was only after she initiated that he filed this motion. And the concern is that he's just trying to take advantage. He was trying to take advantage before he thankfully dropped his request to change physical custody of a year that was very difficult on a lot of children. Mm-hmm. We were in a COVID year, and that's exactly what happened here. As you've noted, the child was in a different school until last year, but they changed the child to Faith Lutheran. They put the child in Faith Lutheran because private schools were actually going to school and public schools weren't. And it was a hybrid learning program, Faith Lutheran. And so the child was going 3 days a week. But like a lot of children during COVID, the child really struggled. The child struggled not only because of COVID, but also because the school, Faith Lutheran, didn't have the same accommodations that the public school system had.
For her 504 plan, right, counsel?
Right. Mm-hmm. And so the child did struggle that year. There's no dispute about that. But really, I mean, this wasn't the time to, he's just trying to take advantage of that and seek a change to things when it was a one-off year. It was during COVID. And now she's back she's in another school that's going to give her the accommodation she had before. And that was really just a temporary thing due to a pandemic. And parents shouldn't be returning when the ink's drying on their last agreement to court, trying to make changes in the middle of a pandemic and take advantage of a situation that was, quite frankly, a lot of parents experienced. They had a lot of difficulty with this.
Counsel, but this one sounds more severe. I agree with you as to the school grades plummeting, all of that I'm fine with. My concern is that this child was checked into Seven Hills. That I do believe is a substantial change of circumstance affecting the welfare of the child. That part's the only part I am concerned with. Yes, she had ADHD before, but it sounds like things between mom and her went off the rails. And yes, it could be because everybody's trapped indoors and we're all doing this stuff in COVID. I get tensions run high. My concern is that part, counsel, is that I do find that to be a substantial change. The fact that she had to call the police on her child shows me that things are not working well. And frankly, I blame Dad for a lot of it. He wasn't there. The fact that he only has such limited time by his own request is on him. So my thought is maybe if he's participated more, this wouldn't be a problem. So with that being said, counsel, I do believe there's a substantial change, but the question becomes, would it make it any better? Is it in the child's best interest to change legal custody? And we're talking about legal custody, the decisions to make as to doctors, dentists, how much medication, and that's what I think he's asking. Now that it was dropped, have you guys had a chance to talk about just that issue? Because it sounds like that just happened, that he dropped the primary physical or the...
We haven't. We haven't had a chance. And, what I would say is, look, Miss Victoria actually has a great relationship with the child. If you were to interview the child, she'd say that she wants to stay with Miss Victoria and doesn't want to be in father's home. That's our belief. So it's not. But she has had disruptive mood dysregulation disorder, as the notes show from the therapist. ADHD oppositional defiant disorder. So my suggestion would be Miss Victoria has taken her to multiple therapists, is trying to get them, wanted to send her, you have as Exhibit 8, a letter from August 24, 2021, that the therapist was recommending, and I'm looking over at it, that's why I'm looking to the side, that the child attend a residential treatment program. And that is something that Miss Victoria wanted to pursue and that Mr. Victoria was apparently in agreement with until it came to cost. So
I saw that, I think it was $7,900 or something in California, if I remember correctly.
We should, instead of changing legal custody, what we should do is say that, look, if we're going to do anything, perhaps, and I'm just throwing this out, I haven't even discussed this with Miss Victoria, but we really need to follow the recommendations of this child's professionals because they're the best suited to know what the child needs. These are the professionals. And that's what Miss Victoria is trying to do. And she just doesn't want anyone to interfere with that. We need decisions. We need things, we need...
Well, the concern, counsel, is the cost, right? Certainly, even if it is, that is a lot of money, and I don't know that these parties are millionaires. I don't know that either one of them has the ability to do that. Is there not some plan that could be covered by their insurance that would be a less expensive, less invasive, perhaps, process?
Okay, so Miss Victoria just informed me that it is actually covered, that the price of the program is more expensive, and that was their portion. We can certainly look. That's what it is total. That's the whole program. Sorry, excuse me. And so then with the insurance, how much would it be?
Who else is present on my screen? Okay, so you guys are in the same room. Okay.
Yeah, we're in the same room. Sorry.
Okay, I just saw two screens. I just want to make sure I wasn't lost.
So we could look into that. Certainly, we can look into, and we can speak with the therapist to see if there are other programs that are less expensive here. But things need to be occurring. We need to make decisions, and one party's participating in the therapy, another party's not participating in the therapy.
Yeah, I did see that in the notes as well. When you said he went to one, he was offered one pro bono. I believe it said one, off the top of my head, it said one pro bono visit, and that didn't even, he's not taken initiative. And so I do want to talk about that. Okay, so that is their portion of the program, the $7,900 is that right? I'm confused on that.
Yes, $7,900 is the cost to the parties.
Okay, so it's probably a $30,000 program or something along that lines, I'm guessing.
And Your Honor, my client is saying that this is out of network.
Right, that's what I'm hearing.
Okay, it's $7,900 is the total cost, and the insurance
does not pay
it would be for the parties because I guess it wouldn't pay.
Okay, Miss Robinson, I want to talk to your client. I want to know why is he not involved with therapy as much? Look, they've got a child in crisis. Maybe he is, but what I'm seeing from there, looking at both sides, I'm not seeing that to be the case. I didn't see in your reply or in that said he went several times, meeting with the doctors, blah, blah, blah. My concern is we've got to get this child some help. If she has oppositional defiance disorder, that's a tough one. Right? It's escalating. Whatever her ADHD that she had before they ever agreed to custody is still the same problem. I'm not seeing now that I say, yes, she might have gone into a crisis situation because of it, but they all knew she had ADHD. They all knew that at the time they agreed to this custodial agreement, the legal custody agreement. So what does your client plan on doing to participate more? You guys have a child in crisis. What is your client doing about it, counsel?
I'll let him address the court directly if that's okay, Your Honor.
That's fine, thank you. Mr. Victoria, tell me what you're doing to help the situation.
Yeah, thank you, Your Honor. Listen, this type of care, out-of-network care, has been going on for years. I've been involved in the appointments with Marnie and Monet. They have not worked. They have not worked. Period. Hands down, they have not worked. Let me make sure I understand. You're saying the regular visits to her therapist has not worked, and that's why Miss Victoria is saying Miss Marnie. And I have attended.
Okay, let me be clear.
Whatever they're saying is not true because Marnie knows that I've attended.
Okay, Dad, hold on. I'm saying, look, you're saying that I'm just trying to translate what you're saying to me. Okay, I'm just trying to make sure I have a good handle on what you're saying. You're saying that you went with them to all these therapy appointments, and it's just not working for Monet. Is that correct?
Correct. They're not working.
So wait, stop right there. Let me make sure I understand. What I understand of this new 7,900 thing is a new plan. That's a total different thing than what you guys have been doing. It's an inpatient, full on. Is that correct, sir? Is that what they're requesting? I'm just trying to figure out what everybody's requesting.
I'm sorry, Judge, we're confused by the question.
I actually remove my mask a little to make it clearer. So my question is this. It sounds like what Ms. Marnie is requesting now is something different. I think both parties agree that what has been happening has not worked because you're in this situation that you're at. I think everybody's agreement to that point. The question is, this is a new type of situation. The 7,900, even though the other stuff might have been out of network, I'm not going to address that, but this thing that's out of network is something different. Is that correct? It's inpatient intensive therapy. Is that correct?
Correct. She wants to send her to a facility in Southern California that's 7,900, and I don't agree with it. It's a drug treatment center in Newport Beach, if I can remember correctly. I've done my due diligence on the place, and it's not for Monet, you know. And with her having 100% legal custody, she can do whatever she wants, and then I get the bill.
Well, that's why you're being brought. Look, I'm the only modification I would consider, and I have to make a complete finding that it's in the child's best interest, and I haven't done that yet, counsel. My only thought on the issue is I would have to do that, Mr. Caraccioni, is that if it's something out of network and that kind of thing, certainly I don't expect somebody just to make that decision and go forward and have an $8,000 bill. My concern is they need to look for something in network. I mean, everything needs to be reasonable for everybody.
Your Honor, and I agree with that, but look what has happened already. She's already been to Seven Hills twice. Marnie has called the police on her with going either way to juvenile hall or back to Seven Hills. Monet is held against her will. I'm held against my will. I can't be involved in these type of decisions. And now it's crucial. Nothing has worked. And Marnie chooses not to speak with me or communicate about any of this with me. And I don't agree with what she's doing. It doesn't make sense.
I disagree with you on a few things. First of all, let's look at the facts that I have before me. By everybody's statement, she had trouble with the child, she called you. That's what a good parent does. You came over, that's what a good parent does. You guys try to work on it together, that's what good parents do. And then the fact that the police said you get two choices because the child is acting out, that she either went to juvenile hall or she went to Seven Hills. You guys made the choice and you took her there physically to try to help out. I appreciate that, Dad, But I'm saying you can't throw it all on Mom's feet then when you have a child that has a mental illness, that has issues already.
Your Honor, excuse me. It's not as severe as you think. I was there on the assessment.
I don't know, Dad. I don't know whether it's severe as I think.
7 to 8 years at the Jewish Community Center, and I spoke with them, and it wasn't as severe as she makes it seem.
Okay, let's talk about who's her current regular therapist, counsel. Who's she seeing on a regular? I know that was in all the documents, the exhibits. I didn't have the information. Have we talked to them? This is what they recommended. What about if we do? It needs to be something in network.
Her psychiatrist now is Dr. Michelle Fontenelle-Gilmer. She's the one who provided the letter.
I saw that.
And
I saw the exhibit.
Just so we know, I mean, this is what we're concerned about. Father doesn't believe that the child needs any help. And first of all, Miss Victoria did not send the child away. For him to say that they're not communicating is not true, because you have our family wizard messages where Mom is communicating with him, as a good mother does. And she didn't make the decision unilaterally. In fact, when Dad said no, the child didn't go, even though when we look at the letter of Dr. Fontenelle-Gilmer, it says, "It is my recommendation that it would be in Monet's best interest to attend a residential treatment program. Oftentimes, dealing with a troubled child's behavioral problems can be solved by simply removing him/her away from an environment that allows the practice of these bad habits. Inpatient therapy centers create a more customized and in-depth treatment plan."
I understand, counsel. I read that part. I read all of that. So I do agree with that, counsel, but the problem is look, it needs to be a network. These parties, they're not multimillionaires. I'm not seeing anybody that's coming before me that's multimillionaires. And that I think that we need to work out a plan. Dad, I agree she needs some help. I have a psychiatrist that says she needs something a little more in-depth. But the question is how you guys are going to do that and how you're going to pay for it. You're going to have to follow the professionals. I know your guys are not psychiatrists. I'm not a psychiatrist. I have a degree in psychology, but that does not make me a psychologist or a psychiatrist. since I chose law instead of that field, and neither are you guys from what I'm hearing. With that being said, we need to follow the therapist guidelines at least, but at the same time, it needs to be in network to where you guys are not out $8,000. That's a lot of money, and especially with the situation where it is. So it can't be anything out of network or anything unreasonable. I mean, I can put some limits on costs, counsel. I'm just trying to say, look, what can we do short of a change of custody? If I have to do I do think there's a substantial change in behavior of the child. Her mental health is deteriorating. It's like school. You can set school stuff here and then it goes downhill, and I think that is a basis for a change of legal custody, and I'm willing to consider that. But my thought is perhaps because the position of Mr. Victoria has changed since I came onto the bench this morning, from what I read, it's different than what it is now. So with that being said, I'm going to say that you guys are going to seek out treatment and inpatient treatment care as the therapist guy recommended, but it's got to be in network so that it isn't $8,000. That's not okay for anybody to have to pay that. So, but at the same time, I'm going to set a status check to determine whether I'm going to set an evidentiary hearing to let you guys talk about that. Because look, you both know that attorneys are going to cost you a lot as well. So with that being said, I'm going to give you guys a chance to figure out what an inpatient thing is. We're going to come back on a status check to hear what the inpatient treatment plan is going to be, that you guys came together to decide that in network. And then I want to hear as to whether, and I'll determine whether I'm going to set an evidentiary hearing. Because this is the situation, Ms. Robinson, is your client did know about her mental health when he agreed to that when he signed that stipulated agreement as to her having the legal custody that she has. So with that being said, I have to consider that this was projected. They knew she had mental health issues. But did it decline faster probably than they thought? Maybe. I don't know. But he did agree to that. And as Mr. Caraccioni says, it was only a year ago. The ink is barely dry. But I think this is a child in crisis that was perhaps perpetuated faster in crisis than she might have been naturally because of COVID. All these kids are suffering. But I'm going to set a status check to see what you guys have come up with as to an inpatient plan that is not the one that's $8,000. I don't think that's reasonable. And all these things that mom has to make are reasonable, and I appreciate that. Mom did not just go enroll her, as Mr. Caraccioni said. She did the reasonable thing. She said, hey, it's a big price. Here it is. And now they're at a crossroads, and the court has to make the decision. I'm going to allow the parties to confer. You're going to have to come up with a plan, ma'am, that's in network. Talk to the therapist and say, hey, do you have any other ones? Perhaps you should look at the in-network list of inpatient providers first. Get the list. Talk to the therapist and say, here's the list of the inpatient ones. Who do you know? Who do you recommend? Or who can you find out who's best? Because the therapist has got the boots on the ground. I don't. Mr. Caraccioni and Ms. Robinson don't. But the therapist will know that field. She'll know who's good, who's not. So my order's going to be, we're going to set a status check to see if you guys have come up with an inpatient. It sounds like she needs the help. Looking at the letter from the therapist, I agree she needs help. Dad, I know you're saying you don't think it's as bad, but my question is, how do you know? You aren't there very much, Dad. By the fact of your own custodial agreement and your arrangement, it is what it is. You've chosen that, and I don't think there's been and now you've withdrawn that request. But I think she needs help. I think all of you know that she needs help. I think everybody agrees with that. Whether it's severe or not severe is another decision for the therapist to make, what the line of treatment is going to be. So, counsel, I'm going to set a status check. The parties are going to confer and try to come up with an inpatient, as the therapist just said that was what best, but it needs to be in network, that the cost is more reasonable. We'll go from there, and I'll set a status check to see if I'm going to set an evidentiary hearing as to custody. In the meantime, perhaps you guys can work out something. Perhaps you guys can work out that mom's going to take her to this, but if it's so much more money, I'm just throwing out suggestions on settlement. This is, I don't want to hear your settlements, but I'm going to throw out some ideas. Perhaps we do that if she changes anything, that there's some discussion about it. I don't think that mom's done anything wrong regarding it. She's following the therapist's letter, but when it comes to big ticket items, maybe you guys come up with a basis that she can take her to do all these things unless it hits this level of expense. Then that has to be a discussion between the parties, because I'm not going to tie anybody to an $8,000 bill when it's not going in network. So perhaps you guys can confer and try to reach a resolution regarding legal custody, whether it's a little bit tweaked. Maybe that's the answer. I don't know. You guys haven't had really a chance to discuss that. I know Mr. Caraccioni was coming in here having to oppose an entire change of custody, right, counsel? So that's different. So I'm going to allow you guys a chance to confer and try to come up with some new language, perhaps, for legal custody, or I'll have to set trial. I don't know if I think it's the basis yet until I see how they come up with the other resolution. as to the inpatient therapy, but I'm going to set it about 45 days, counsel. Do you think that's enough time for you guys to figure out a plan?
I think so, Your Honor. And then my client did want to make a request. Like, this all happened just 5 minutes before the hearing that he withdrew his request. And so we'll just put it out there and we can talk about this in settlement discussions. But the other thing he is telling me is that Monet getting older is wanting to do the football game. She's wanting to hang out more with her friends. So that's impeding on his Friday visitations. So he would like more fluidity in being able to see Monet during the week. So she can still go out with her friends and do those things on Friday, but that he not get a missed visitation as a result.
I agree. He has such limited time. I'm sure you guys can confer and try to work out some kind of agreement regarding that. Because, Mom, I think you recognize that your daughter now wants to go to these things, and you don't want to make her feel like she has to choose between her dad or friends. That's not fair to the child. So maybe we could just adjust the time to a different day or something. So I'm going to let you guys try to talk that out as well. Anything else that needs to be discussed, Ms. Robinson?
No, I think that was it on our end. Thank you, Your Honor.
Okay, Madam Clerk, can I have a return date about... Yes, Mr.
Your Honor, on our end, we did ask for a review of the child support and a modification. What you have on the financial, she had been pursuing that through the DA, but now that we're in front of you, obviously, the child support court would defer to Your Honor. What you have before you is an FDF that only shows earning statements with $4,800 in income as of July 20th pay date, yet his income is, he says,
$7,471
a month. So you're supposed to attach your pay stubs, and if you have businesses, your profit and loss. There's no profit and loss. So can we get, in the 45 days, can we have an exchange of information?
Yes, I have that in my notes, counsel, that I need to address child support, and then I need some paycheck stubs and P&Ls, counsel. So I need you to do an amended financial disclosure form. I'll address child support when we come back. I need it with all the proper documentation attached.
And then will you defer on the request for attorney's fees?
I will defer on the request for attorney's fees on both sides.
Okay.
Okay, I will see you back here. Let me have the date, Madam Clerk. November 9th at 11 o'clock. Does that work?
I don't think so. Let me check.
That would work for us, but
I could do the following week, Your Honor.
Okay, you're out of town that week. All right, the next week, Madam Clerk? November 17th at 11?
I can do that.
I can do that.
Okay, I'll see everybody back here so everybody understands what they need to do, I believe. I think I was pretty clear. Does anybody have any questions? Is there anybody who's missing the point that I'm expecting?
No, we will meet and try to resolve the issues. That's, I think, the main point.
That is the main point, but it's also to get this child into therapy that she needs. I believe Mom is right, but I just think they don't see eye to eye on how to get there. So hopefully we can do that. And I will see you guys all back here then. Thank you for your appearances. Counsel, do you want the minutes? I will allow the minutes based upon representations of counsel to suffice unless you want to do an order.
I'm fine with the minutes.
We're fine with the minutes, I guess, unless we see something we want to put in an order.
Okay, I'm happy to see an order come, but counsel, you're coming back in 6 weeks anyway, so I'll allow it to stand. The minutes will suffice. Unless you would like an order, I'm happy to sign one as well. So I will see you guys back here. Thank you for your appearances.
Thank you for your time
Thank
this
you, Your
morning.
Honor.
Bye-bye.
Bye.